Hi there, John Wilkinson here and History Made Easier. When we look at those crises that the Soviet Union faced in Eastern Europe, Hungary and the Berlin Wall and the Prague Spring in Czechoslovakia, I think there are 6 key factors that we can take from all of them, and really 6 warning signs that the Soviet Union ignored. The first factor is that we repeatedly see hope being squashed. And the people of Eastern Europe had some hope when the Soviet Union took over after World War II. They had been through World War I. They had been through the Great Depression. They had been through fascism and World War II. The West seemed to have failed them. Look at the way the West had ignored the plight of Czechoslovakia, for example. And so they came into the Soviet period with hope. But that hope was, as I say, repeatedly squashed as any attempt to exert a degree of freedom was responded by tanks and troops on their streets. So, my first factor, hope was squashed. My second factor is the degree of political oppression. That's what people were fighting against. We have the minimal individual freedom, the things that we take for granted, the right to travel, for example. We have no political freedom. We do not have free elections. We do not have alternative parties. The control of the media and the censorship applied on the media. The secret police, an ever-presence in people's lives. This is what people were balking against, and we can understand that. And then we have the economic failings. We have an economy I'm talking about in all the Eastern Bloc states. We have economies that are so closely tied to the Soviet Union that they really feed the Soviet Union rather than their own people. I mean feed with material goods as well as food. Those economies are locked in to the Soviet Union's requirements. And so people will balk against that as well. Of course they will. They don't seem to be able to produce a consumer economy. And the peoples of Eastern Europe are aware of the far superior standard of living enjoyed in the West. They are aware of that, and they look at what they have and they think, this is not good enough. And it wasn't. So economic failings. And there's a strong sense in Eastern Europe of being occupied. That hope had long gone. They see the Soviet troops and tanks on the streets in Budapest, on the streets in Prague, and they see a wall erected down the centre of Berlin by the Soviet Union. They see themselves as being occupied. And that brings us to, I think, the fifth factor that I would raise, and that's the growing sense of frustrated nationalism. Our economy directed to the needs of a foreign power, our streets occupied by troops from a foreign power. This is nationalism as much as a fight against a political ideology. And the final factor I would make, common in all three cases, is that to the fore of the protests were young people. And this is a nation's future. And if your young people are frustrated, then you're in trouble, because they are the ones that you have been indoctrinating through the school system, through the youth movements. It's clearly not working because your economy isn't providing them with the opportunities in life, your social control, your political control, giving them no choice in life. This is getting to them. And so I think we can draw out 6 common factors that show that the Soviet Union is struggling, increasingly struggling, to maintain its control over the peoples of Eastern Europe. So bear that in mind when you come to examine the collapse of the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc. As always, I thank you for listening. And as always, I remind you to take a look at my website, History Made Easier. Cheers.